Listen up. Here we go. It's another week has gone by. It's been a blessed one. The sun is shining. Yes, I am back in North Carolina, and you all are officially rolling with Ramsey. Hey, gotta love it. Gotta love it. You know what? I just want to say thank you once again to all the folks down in Red Bay, Alabama from Tiffin Motor Homes who helped get me squared away. I made a safe journey back to North Carolina, so I am back. Hey, what they like to say here in North Carolina is nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina, especially in the morning. So I'm thankful about that. If nothing else, the sun is shining. Hey, I'm breathing. I'm blessed and highly favored. And that's a beautiful thing. So everybody that's out there that's ready for a great show today, you're in for a treat. I've got a great friend of mine who is going to be joining me. Matter of fact, he's already in the waiting room, so to speak, to bring him on board. It's going to be phenomenal. Be ready to chime in, ask your questions, have your 2 cents ready is what I'd like to say, because today I am going round and round with my man Forrest Clay. And I am sure enough looking forward to it, because he sure enough got a lot to say. Good friend of mine. And, that's what we're going to do today. So if you catch up on some of the events that have taken place, the Democratic Convention is ongoing, which is unique in itself because of the situation we are in with the coronavirus and COVID-19, how it is being done from a virtual setting. And to watch them just pull that production off and get their point across is very interesting, creative, and I would say very effective in many ways. We might be looking at the future to come even after we've conquered the coronavirus. So who knows? But definitely very effective in that manner. We're watching kids try to go to school and be back home. And get ready for the another virtual year, which is a new venture for children to learn. I will say that is different for them in itself. And who knows, this could be the new norm that we're in when it comes to kids learning. And so I would like to remember we go back. What up, Noble? I see you. You're rolling with Ramsey. I would like to go back to when I watched cartoons and remember like the Jetsons and stuff. They went off to school, but they went off in spaceships and eventually sat in front of computers and things like that. And that's kind of what our kids are doing now. Our students are doing now, even at the collegiate level. And it's so different. But without further ado, we're not going to wait, because this boxing match got to get ready. I'm going to bring in our guest for today. You all bear with me as I bring him on board. Bear with me. We're going to bring him on board and bring him into the room. There's Mr. Clay right there. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Let me turn this down.
All right. All right, man. It's great to see you. It's great to see you, brother.
Same here.
All right. So listen, you know what? I got to let the world know I've got the infamous Forrest Clay on the show today. He is a veteran, as I am myself. He's my brother in arms. He's also a writer for the AfricanAmericanAthlete.com. He is also a father, a husband, a educator, a lecturer, volunteer, and mentor, and so much more Forrest Clay, you are officially doing what?
Rolling with Rams.
Hey, rolling with Ramsey. That's what's up. Hey, so man, it's great. It's great to have you on the show today. And
Be a part of it.
oh man, most definitely. And so it's one of those things where I tell people all the time that it's good to have friends who got their ear to the street. They know what's going on. They staying close, keeping a very good perspective. And so, we just gonna go, look, it's round one. Let's get ready to rumble. Here we go. We're just gonna start it off fresh with him. Since he is a writer for a sports column, who you got? Lakers or the LA Clippers?
I want to say the Clippers. I'm gonna say the Clippers.
Man.
But it's a hard choice, and I'll tell you why. I mean, because LeBron, he wills, and I don't leave anything, out of his hands. He's second, in my opinion, to Michael Jordan. No, I don't want to even say Michael Jordan. Excuse me, because I got to go Jordan, then Kobe, then I get LeBron. So yeah. He'll will it. He'll will it. So
even after last night,
they
took an L. Hey, Dame Dollar said it's Dame time. He said it's Dame time, son. Dame time. Stepped over half court. Hey, how my man say it? Bang! Hey.
He definitely did. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be. You can't make excuses for it being the bubble. But I do think that being in the element of unknown and only being there for a short amount of time, then going into a playoff series, I think there's going to be adjustment on both parts. But I think the veteran leadership of LeBron being there is going to get them past Portland. Now, when they get to meet up with the Clippers, that's a different story.
Ooh, well, I'm going to tell you right now, your boy, both our partner and friend, Noble Patterson's told me to tell you what's up. He's rolling with Ramsey today. He giving you a mad shout out. Hey, but you talking about the Clippers. Man, they got to get by these Portland Trailblazers. And if Danny Green can't put the ball in the hole, if ACP can't put the ball in the hole, they in trouble. Now, I will put part of it on the coach last night because I didn't understand why Dion Waiters was sitting or got 1 minute. J.R. Smith, he didn't even see the game at all. And if you got folks in the game that's not putting the ball in the hole and you got specialty lights out shooters sitting on the bench, you're doing yourself a disservice.
You definitely are. But again, I just think that, it's game one. You got to remember, for the past couple of games, Portland has been playing on, with the season on the line. So they're playing with that intensity of this can be it for so long. It just carried over to the first game of the series. Now, can they maintain that mentality, going forward? And again, I just think that veteran leadership of LeBron is going to step up. And, Portland was up by 16.
They can't. They brought it back.
And within a couple of minutes in the game, the Lakers were up by 6. Now, Dame hit a key three when the Lakers were up by 6 to bring it down to 3.
Right.
And then, you had contributions of Carmelo came in, and they kind of pulled away towards the end. But that's because the Lakers didn't have the shots going in. A couple of key free throws missed. And
they should have never been in that situation, honestly. They should have never been in that situation. You look at it, somebody like Danny Green, who was throwing up a bag of bricks all night, if he'd have made a couple of more shots, they should have never, ever have been in that situation because there was a stretch where Dame didn't make a shot for almost like the entire fourth quarter. So it's like, this is the opportunity to get far enough ahead to where it won't be an issue if he dropped one from 70 feet, But I saw it. I said, man, this game is too close. They not going to – I said, this game too close. They in trouble. They in trouble. they in trouble. That's sports, but more big. That's one thing we're talking about sports, but more on a more social standpoint. How do you feel how the NBA is handling the issues of social justice right now? What's your opinion on that? The whole Black Lives Matter being on the court, them being able to put names on the back of their jersey. Do you think the NBA is moving in the right direction, or could they have done more? Could they have done less? Do you think they've alienated some people in that matter in that field?
Let me just say this because this they often get overlooked. The WNBA is doing a good job as well as the NBA
Okay.
together. So let's not leave out our sisters and those phenomenal females that are representing the game as well down there in the bubble. So I'll say, for as basketball as a whole, for as NBA and WNBA, I think they're doing an outstanding job. Uh, when it comes to the social issues that are being relayed today, that we're watching on the spotlight right now, everything is about social justice. And if there's any league that has always been more about what's going on and in tune with what society is saying, it's been the NBA and the WNBA. You got a commissioner like Adam Silver who doesn't silence the player and allows them to be a part of the conversation and allows them to be a part of the conversation. It really shows where they're going as far as the league and the vision that he has. And those players on the basketball side, they have more of a voice. Now, we can always say that money is involved because they have guaranteed contracts, and so they're not worried about if they voice their opinion on something, if they're going to lose their job. Not necessarily as much so as the NFL. Those are not guaranteed contracts, uh, and that money is based off incentives in most of the cases, right? And so they're doing a good job with Black Lives Matters, putting the names of victims of brutality and social unjust on the back of the jerseys, um, letting them know about the shoes representing it that way, and just having a voice. So I think the NBA and the WNBA doing a phenomenal job and letting people know what's going on with social law.
So, do you feel like the NBA is putting some serious pressure on the NFL to step up, particularly with this upcoming football season, particularly with the situation that happened with George Floyd, knowing that this is what Colin Kaepernick was protesting on the entire time. Now that the world has seen it, are they going to be able to backtrack in such a way? Obviously, they're going to have to try to save some type of face. They're going to have to.
They can't backtrack. The damage is already done. We already know what the NFL is about when it comes to social injustice and with Kaepernick, right? It wasn't that Kaepernick was speaking out against the NFL or what they want to label as being unpatriotic, things of that. And I call that consolidated patriotism, but because they take their patriotism and they consolidate it to what they want it to be, right? And so the NFL tried to do that by ousting Kaepernick out, and now that everything's unfolded, right? And they had an opportunity to be on the right side of history, just like the NBA in doing what they had an opportunity to be on the right side of history. However, what they chose to do, they chose to ignore what he was saying and look at the gesture more than anything. And then they allow outside entities to come in and say, well, this is about patriotism. He's disrespecting the flag. And nobody listened to the actual thing, the message that he was saying. It wasn't about the flag. It wasn't about the military. It was about social injustice that was going on in the Black community. And he
Right.
chose to take it. First, remember, he was sitting, and then he chose to take a knee because of Nate Boyer,
Right.
uh,
Right.
the Army Ranger, who told him this was a better gesture. And you and I know that kneeling with the flag is a sign of respect given to the fallen family once they received that flag. So it wasn't a matter of disrespect to the flag. They took the narrative and they ran with it.
They ran with it. Right,
Then
right.
you allow the president and everybody else to get involved and just spin this whole narrative, right? And so they can't come back and save face. An apology, they can do that, but it still doesn't take away the fact that this man lost his career over this. He's gonna be remembered more so for this, ever more than his football playing days, but for what he stood for. And so, what the NFL can do is they can start pushing for more social justice reform, start getting behind more of the players' causes and things of that nature. And in some way, they're doing that right now. But again, they had an opportunity from the
They missed the mark, and it's funny that we're on the NFL. This past week, the Washington Redskins hired the first African American president of an organization, and rightfully so. You're excited and you're like, wow, this is a breakthrough. But then on the other hand, you're like, what took you so long?
right.
Honestly, what took you so long? There have been more. We've had people that have been more than qualified to be in these positions, to make your organization better as a whole, and not have some of the problems that they've experienced and that they've had. And it's funny to me how we always seem to have to enter in these positions, if you notice, after there's been a major problem. So once again, the owner of the Washington Redskins had a major problem of harassment, hostile environment in the workplace, all these things going on right up under his nose that he did or did not see, but condoned or did not condone. And now he has to do this major shakeup, and he has to make his workplace not only more diversified, but he's got to bring in somebody who's got a mindset to bring in a movement where everybody's included. And guess what? Not the first time, everybody. The same exact thing, can't call him a maverick, no pun intended, happened with the Dallas Mavericks. After the Dallas Maverick had all that stuff go down, then all of a sudden, now the president of basketball operations over there, if I'm not mistaken, is a black female. So it's like, why weren't we considered prior to?
It's corporate social justice, right? Everybody's doing it right now. It's not just NFL, NBA. It's your everyday corporation or organization right now. They're all doing corporate social justice, where now they're actually looking at the boardroom and saying, okay, we got all white men here. Where's our diversity?
Right.
So we got to go get some diversity inside our organization. We got to start talking about our race relations. How are we marketing to minorities for our brands? Looking at all of these things. Remember you had Gucci a while back. Everybody now, it's almost like it's, and I hate to phrase it this way, but it's the new thing, right? We got to catch wave to this thing that's going on for our social injustice, and we got to be a part of it. And it's easy to be a part of it now because it's becoming the normalization of things with everything that's going on in society. And so now we can come out and say, oh yeah, we've hired more African Americans or more minorities. We're gonna put this person in this position for diversity, and we're going to have these conversations at the workplace, right? All the while, the conversations were already going on with the black employees there.
Right.
They already pointed it out. But now it's like, okay, now we hear you. But we got to be mindful that even though they hear us, it's still going to take time for those really real changes to come. And I applaud the man for taking that position with formerly the Redskins, now the Washington football team.
The Washington football team.
Because he has
I stand corrected.
To fulfill, coming off, like you said, the harassment case and renaming and things of that nature. So
it's definitely a lot going And I tell people all the time that we have to make sure that we are seeking understanding rather than being understood. A lot of times we have to have that, and we have to make sure that we are doing that because people don't understand it. You can miss out, so to speak, on what you're trying to accomplish, what's going on. But at the same time, push your message so far that you miss out what's happening on the other side. And you can't miss that. I say it all the time. Rolling with Ramsey is going to always be about bringing people together to have healthy conversations, whether we agree or not. But if we're not talking and we're not listening, my mom used to say it to me all the time. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as hard. And that goes for everybody on both sides of whatever the issue may be. After you've made your point, you've got to be willing to cut your ears on a little higher and listen to what the other side has to say so that you can meet in the middle. That's what you got to be able to do.
Right. And so just to carry on what you just said, so there's what I'm trying to impose is these courses, right? I'm trying to get these courses at these universities where we have these courageous conversations early on. We need to talk about race. We need to talk about politics. And what we need to talk about them at is at the School of Education, School of Business, and all those where we know that race is going to play a part of our society. Race is a very key. And so if you're not educating those future teachers on how to have those courageous conversations in the classroom with talking to our African-American students or minority students and having a real conversation about how to, when you're dealing with a Black student, our mannerisms as a young man, are not going to be the same as a white student. Early on, we're often labeled as energetic, ADHD, all of these things, but we're not meeting the student, right? And those white teachers often find themselves, if they haven't educated themselves or haven't had the courageous conversation, they find themselves not able to talk to that student. Same thing when it goes into the boardroom, into business, right? You want to have that conversation as a white individual, but you don't know how to have that conversation.
Right.
Well, let's have the conversation in the classroom before you go off and work at the Fortune 500 company. Let's have a conversation before you go off into the classroom and start teaching these students. We need to have these courageous conversations when it pertains to race and have a clear understanding that you can say what you want to say and not offend me, but you have to say it professionally. You have to know what you're talking about, and you have to know how to navigate it. So I think oftentimes we don't have that conversation because we're not listening.
Well, you know what? We served together. We served together in the United States Army. And for everybody who don't know, myself and Forrest, we were in the same officers candidate school class. So we served together. And one of the things that we remember about being in service is how we had to have all these mandatory classes. And one of them was cultural awareness training that we had to have. Now, I would always question the effectiveness of cultural awareness training, because if you're going to have cultural awareness training, you've got to be willing to appreciate and understand my culture, my background, where I come from, my colloquialisms, the things that make me who I am, and not see them as making me inferior. And so a lot of times, a lot of those things got brushed over because, for everybody who don't know, the Army, everything that's out in the real world is in the Army too. You're not going to run from it just because you joined the Army. But I will say this, some things are addressed better, some things are addressed about the same. But there's a lot of unwritten rules as Army officers that we have to follow. It is what it is. We signed up for it. We knew it going into it. You learn those rules. You can either abide by those unwritten rules or suffer the consequences. And I always said that you have to appreciate. So let me say it like this. Myself and Forrest, we were both considered prior service officers. We were already in. We went to officers candidate school, and we became commissioned officers. So we were enlisted prior to. Our things were seen, sometimes we were seen as intimidating because we had a vast wealth of knowledge to choose from when it came to our decision making and how we moved as an officer. We just moved different because we understood how our enlisted soldiers, their mannerisms, how they acted, how they moved, how they maneuver. So we understood their value. There it is. That's the key word I'm looking for. We understood their value, and understanding their value, we were able to put together a team where everybody was winning. We were all successful. Everybody is happy. Everybody I talked to, including Noble, who's on right now, who is a commander like you and myself, we had successful commands because of our past experience. And being able to do that in corporate America, what we bring, I'll tell you my own story. Coming from having a military background and stepping into corporate America, working for Siemens, trust and believe, I did not realize that I was a intimidating force going in. And the reason why I say that is because my colleagues did not understand how I could move so much like a machine. Now, for me, it was totally different. I didn't see myself moving like a machine. I saw it totally different. My money's going to the bank every other Friday. You paying me a whole bunch of money. So if you want me to go down to the warehouse floor and sweep it, all I'm going to ask you is what broom you want me to use, whatever you want me to do. Whereas I watch people say things like, well, that's not in my job scope. That's not what you paid me to do, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, I'll do it. No problem. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so for me, like I said, it was just from a standpoint, man, they're paying me a whole bunch of money. They're paying me, so I really don't care what they want me to do. That's a military mentality. We're just trying to accomplish the mission. Well, everybody doesn't have that. So the fact that I was not on the side of the team per se, in standing up for myself, I looked at it very differently. I said, well, we're not being team players if we are not trying to help the company win. And so when you look at things as a whole now, there's a lot of things that have to be addressed. There's a lot of things that have to be approached. And the only way that we're going to do that is if we can still show our value. And to really have folks and have companies appreciate our value, they have to be willing to understand our worth. Now, that may sound like I said a whole bunch of the same thing, but I want y'all to think about what I just said. I didn't. I said they have to understand our value, and to understand the value, they have to understand our worth. What you think, Forrest?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. So when you come into places like the Army, one of the things you have to understand is you have to conform, right? Because the Army have standards. You lose your individualism to a certain degree. All right, you're not an individual. It's team oriented. You're part of a team, and so in doing that, though, you still have qualities about yourself that are just going to stand out. Leadership, boisterous, understanding. Some of those things are characteristics of who you are as a person. And when you come into a system, quite like the military, where especially for us being an officer. And being a minority officer, you're already considered someone not supposed to be there. And so when you're not supposed to be somewhere, you have to stand out in certain ways. You have to be better or more so than your peers. And that's something that's told to us from the beginning when we go into officer school, from the time we graduate officer school and we get to our unit. They're going to tell you that, especially minority African-American officers who has higher rank than you, they're going to tell you have to be better than your peers, 10 times better. Well, one of the things that I take away from that, because yes, you are absolutely right. Coming out of that, and then going into corporate America and to for regular society, we naturally learn how to look at something How do we make this better? How can we streamline it? And then how can we execute? Because we have a mission to complete. And oftentimes when we get to corporate America or our jobs, we look at it the same way. Here's the issue. How do we streamline it? How do we fix it in a timely manner and execute it? Because this is what you, like you said, you're paying me to do. The difference between that, however, though, Ramsey, and that I realized quickly when I walked away from the military, is that although I loved my time in the military, I lost who I was as an individual. And so I lost not my voice, but I couldn't be what I really saw myself be, if that makes sense. So now that I'm out of the military and I'm in corporate America or I'm teaching, my voice gets heard. I'm not worried about how you view me as far as the exterior. I'm worried about what are you thinking about the interior, because we get wrapped up in the exterior of beard, hair, and all of those things that come with quote unquote the corporate American, what they want you to be. And so I took away is that I'm not going to be what you want me to be. I'm going to be who I am. And I wore that uniform. I shaved every day. I was who you wanted me to be 12 years. All right. I did my time, did my service. Now my service comes to educating those and letting you know that there is a place for you in the society and you don't have to hide your blackness anymore.
That's right.
Now, I'm not saying that I hid my blackness when I was in the military, because oftentimes that's part of the reason why I got into a lot of trouble.
Well, we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about that. That's very true. So right now you're still in Louisville, right? You're still in Kentucky. All right. So hey, I can't go like give another breath without saying, hey, justice for Breonna Taylor. We still need justice for her. A sad situation all the way around. This young lady was a civil servant. She was an EMT worker. I mean, and so I look at that just for wow, because I'm not as familiar with Louisville as you are, but I will say this. I applaud her in heaven right now. Mama, Mama, may you rest in peace. Find Breonna, give her a big hug for me, because two things. One, she was a black female and she was an EMT. I'm not saying that that's not heard of, but she was a young sister who saw an avenue for her to excel. And she was doing that. She was doing very well on her job, very well liked, very professional. And she showed up on the scene and needed to save you. You were lucky that she showed up. One of the best in that area from what I've researched and understand. So for what happened to her to have taken place is a tragedy that we cannot just be quiet on. It goes back to just being profiled altogether in the fact that they had the wrong house, and none of that doesn't make an excuse. People still have to be held accountable for the loss of her life. There's no justification for that, and we can't sleep on that. Now, that being said, I wanted to get that out the way. Tell me about some of the programs that you're doing, particularly with our youth there, or that you've been a part of in the past, or what you got going on in the future to enlighten some of our youth to shine a light so that they can walk a better path.
All right, yeah. And let me just make a statement on the Breonna.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And everything you said was absolutely right. However, what I want to take away from that is this. To me, and what it should be to society in general, it shouldn't matter if she was an EMT, or it shouldn't matter what position she held. She was a black body. She was a female. She was a human being. And a human being's life was taken unjustly.
Most definitely.
It doesn't matter, what quote unquote they say the boyfriend was involved in or who else was involved in. Those are the things that the media and this systematic oppression always do.
Well, they
they
didn't
want
like
to.
they didn't like the fact. Well, I won't say they didn't like the fact, but they did not shine a huge bright light when he was let go because he was justified in the shooting that he did
Right,
and everything was legal. It was kind of like, okay, yep, they let him go.
right,
Everything he was straight, and it kind of got swept under the rug.
right.
Um,
So when it comes to black bodies, everything gets technical, right? But when it comes to crimes that are done in white America, uh, there seems that the common sense factor wants to step in, and someone say, "Well, oh yeah, well, you have a right to protect yourself in your home. If somebody comes into your home unannounced, you have a right to shoot." But when it becomes us, almost just like the stand your ground laws in Florida and
oh,
everywhere else that have them,
yeah, most
it
definitely.
becomes complicated. It becomes one of these
Right.
things where, well, it's technical, and so we got to get all the evidence and everything. So I just want to say that, outside of her profession, she was a young lady, a beautiful black body, who lost her life to nonsense and things that, and the biggest thing is she's not the only one.
No, she's.
And so
I want to say this real quick. No, she's not the only one, and sadly, and Lord forgive me, I can't remember the young lady's name or the woman's name out in Fort Worth who was in her own home, and pretty much, and this is before Breonna Taylor. Pretty much the same thing happened. They either shot inside her home, this, that, and the other, or a phone call was made. They thought that there was something felonious going on, and this woman lost her life inside her own home as well. So this wasn't the first time something like this took place. Both in John, in Dallas, this man is in his own house, and I'm sorry, I just don't still believe how you not know that you're not in your apartment. I thought I was in my apartment. Really?
right, right,
Really? Come on now. I mean, no, that dog, I'm out from the country. That dog ain't gonna hunt.
right.
So you're absolutely right in some of the things you're saying.
And so, again, there's a lot being done here in the community. With protests are still going on. I applaud those protesters. I've even went down and protested a couple of times. One of my, someone that I grew up with, one of the lawyers, Anita Baker, is doing a fantastic job on the case, continuously providing everybody with updates and what's going on, keeping the family at ease the best that she can. And so the city of Louisville is definitely in a transition of trying to find answers. Um, Answers will be given, um, and we'll just have to sit patiently and wait for the outcome. But I do believe, I pray that we do get the justice that is needed. I mean, you can't change laws and put them in the young lady's name and not say that there was nothing systematically wrong. And so,
Right. Right.
you know,
Right.
so
Right. Right. Right.
so I think we will get that justice. But to answer your follow up question as far as what's going on in the community, or me, I'm lucky to be a part of a fantastic organization called the Minority Mental Health Project. Um, and what we do, founder Damon Cobble, he phenomenal guy in the mental health profession. He was inside the schools, and he said there's a service to be needed outside of the schools as well. And we don't talk about mental health enough in our community, and so let's get rid of the stigma. So he created Minority Mental Health Project, and right now we've gotten a lot of partnerships throughout the city of Louisville, from Metro United Way, University of Louisville, the Urban League, and countless others. Forgive me if I forget some of the names, but there's so many people who will come together and say, well, we need to talk about the mental health in the Black community, because we're dealing with PTSD, post slave traumatic syndrome, right? And we don't talk about that.
Right.
We often want to look at the generation of of what came after slavery. It's so long ago. Well, it's not that so long.
Far
It's
as
still got
far
great
as someone told me they're struggling to hear you, so I don't know if you need to speak up a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Uh,
Uh,
they want to make sure that they hear you. Joe, I see you. You're rolling with Ramsey. Debbie, thanks for tuning in. Nisha Blunt is rolling with Ramsey. Nikisha Owens Allen is rolling with Ramsey. You all, thanks for tuning in. Um,
can you hear me now?
that sounds a
Am I
little
louder?
better. Yeah, it's a little louder.
Okay. And so we help in the minority community with mental health, and everything is free of charge. We have some outstanding counselors on board, and therapists as well. And so we got that going on. I want to give prominent youth of Louisville, LeVon Clack. He's doing a great job with youth in our community. Was able to help out with some grant writing for him. But he's taking the music thing and he's allowing kids to come in after school and work on the business side of music, because we oftentimes see the kids want to get in front of the camera and in front of the microphone or behind the microphone, but he's teaching the business side, so you can know how to get those residuals from what you're doing. And then also within the community, as far as helping out with pre-post game, just going out and trying to enlighten our student athletes and athletes in general on the business side of what's going on when it pertains to getting into college, understanding your subsidy or college scholarship, and then after how you preparing yourself after college with your financial needs.
And
So
that's
helping out
and
with
that's
that.
that's a big thing right there. Uh, uh, Kenneth Holler told me to tell you what's up. He's listening right now. Um, one of those things is true. After, thank you for rolling with Ramsey, Kenneth. Make sure you like us, follow us, all that good stuff. Um, one of the things that we have to make sure that our kids are aware, our student athletes are aware. I saw the other day where you said you wrote something about the term student athlete in how it's changed and it's been I would like to say just a metamorphosis, so to speak. And we really need to emphasize the word student. Um, I get it. There's some very talented athletes out here that have awesome opportunities to make it to the professional level. But, and I'll say this with a big comma, but a lot of times I believe that they fall into the category of not understanding. And this doesn't this isn't just for black athletes. Don't think this. This is for any student athlete that you are one play away from never playing that sport ever again. And then what's left? What do you have at that point to fall back on? And that was my mother always stressed the importance of getting an education and having that plan B ready. You can be the best running back, the best point guard, the best receiver, quarterback. One play, ask Joe Theismann, one play, and guess what? Teddy Bridgewater, for that matter, was very close to not playing again.
All right. So you have to people have to understand this system of college athletics, right? Student athlete, it's just a construct to keep you as society, keep everybody circulating that there's this such thing as a student athlete. And when you get to the collegiate level, even the high school level, you're not necessarily a student athlete, right? 'Cause you're making even the high school money, right? You're making the college coaching
Hey,
salary,
that's
right?
right.
And then so and then you have, and don't even get you started on AAU things like that, right?
Whew.
And so the whole thing of student athlete is to continue to push this thing of amateurism, and there's not. We have to get out of the mindset that these young men and young women are coming to the universities and they're coming to get an education when it comes to those who participate in athletics. Now, it's not so much more on the female side because they do make a way for those individuals. When you step on that university from a basketball and football perspective, you're not seeing classes, especially on the football level. You're not
Right.
seeing classes with the rest of the students there. All right, you're there. The moment you arrive on that campus, you're there for one thing, and that's to play football and to make that university money. The coaches are not going to come out and say anything differently. Why? Because you're paying their salary. They need you there. They, you hold the power. And so this whole thing is, and people have to understand, when that football player arrives on campus, he's not picking his degree. He's not picking what he wants to go to school for. It's already chosen for you. When you go pick up your quote unquote books, books are already in a box for you. All right.
Wow.
You're not going there for school. You know, they're gonna pick your own degree and everything out for you. That's why you see a lot of kids graduate early, right? You know, you take some of these
Now,
kids.
now I will say this: I just saw Jason Williams, who went to Duke, basketball player.
Yeah,
Tragic that he got in an accident, so he didn't. His NBA career was short lived. But they were interviewing Coach K, and they were saying one of the things that people didn't know about Jason Williams was he graduated in 3 years from Duke. Now, when I first heard that, I was like, how in the world did Jason Williams finish a degree from Duke University in 3 years? Not impossible, but he was an athlete too. You playing basketball, I know what that time is like. So it's a great feat. I applaud him. I don't know what he got his degree in, but one of the things, and I believe I'm sure it is legit, because one of the things that Coach K followed up with was he said, well, you came from great pedigree. Your parents were educators and so forth. So he came from a background of education, just like I come from a background of education with my mother. So, me joining the Army, Mama, I promise you, if it takes me 20 years, I'll finish my degree. I finished with 2. So if you have that background and those seeds are already planted in you, you just need a little water to cultivate that soil to meet that accomplishment. But like you said, most of our athletes that are coming have been catered to. They're number one, this, that, and the other. They're a blue chipper. Right now, if it's basketball and you talking about one and done, really? Really? I'm just coming. This is just a springboard. I'm going to do whatever I got to do, bare minimum, to get here. I'm in and out. You know it. I know it. People talk junk about John Calipari up at, I believe it's Kentucky, right? Embracing the whole one and done, but he understood the system. So he like, Muppet, I'm gonna let you come here. We're gonna try to get you as ready as we can, get you as much time so we can get your draft stock up. That's why he had winning teams.
If I'm a top talent like that, I don't even do one and done. I go to the G League. I mean, the G League has made it accessible right now for high school kids to forego college and go straight there and start making money. If I'm not one of those kids that's in the top 10 and I still believe that, college is not the route for me, I'm going to go overseas. I'm going to make the money that I can while I'm up. You can always go back to college, right? But as a kid, you have a ability to produce on the court, on the field. You exercise your right to make money. This is what our society is about, capitalism, right? That's what it's all about, making money. So if you have a kid in high school who doesn't shoot or dribble a basketball or play football, but has an idea that's going to go out and get them money while they're young, we applaud it. But when it comes to our African American kids who say, "Well, I don't want to go to high school. I have this great ability to put about basketball through a hoop. I want to get paid for it." First thing people say is, "Why is he doing that? They want, he should go to college or whatever." Well, why? Go to college and make you millions of dollars and then I don't get anything? AKA Zion Williams, who made Duke X amount of money, X amount of millions of dollars.
He made him a lot of money.
Nothing for it. And you take the time that his shoe broke on the court, there was an actual bidding war right there during the season over who was going to sign him for his shoe contract. And so you mean to tell me that I can't exercise my right to make money off of my name, image, and likeness and come to your university? Why? Why would I do that? So I think it's time that we start recognizing, understanding that these kids have an ability to go out and make some money. And NCAA is not gonna pay to play, which they should, and that's what the whole We United is about as well. Not just COVID, but it's about getting a piece of the pie because these college coaches and these universities are making millions and billions of dollars. Case in point, COVID has exposed the NCAA for who it is. Now you see how much revenue comes into these universities.
Oh, bruh. Let me slide in. Let me slide in right here. Nikki, I see you. You're rolling with Ramsey. Let me slide in right here. Nick Saban finally came out and came off the sidelines and said, hey, you got to put your mask on if you want to save college football here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You want to know why he said that? The city of Tuscaloosa stands to lose $21 billion in revenue. I didn't say 21 million. I said the city stands to lose $21 billion in revenue if they don't have college football there at the University of Alabama this upcoming season. $21 billion? Really? Really?
LSU stands to lose $80 million.
Whew. You know, so it is, we understand that. We understand that these kids are pawns in a system that is rigged against them, particularly when it comes to football, because there's really no other avenues for them to pursue. There's no semi-pro league, and then you can move up to you kind of stuck in the system when it comes to college football. Basketball is trying some things with the new G League and having some options for these kids. And if you don't, and the thing that hurts some children is this. We talked about AAU there for a second, but here's what hurts. No, you don't have to go to college. You can go overseas, but then you gotta be prepared for that. You can go and play with a Luka Doncic before he made it to the NBA and gain all of that experience and so forth. But let's talk about this. You got to have the social skills. You got to have the ability to be in a foreign country and understand how things are going on. You're not going to have anybody holding your hand. So you have to be educated and prepared for that. And a lot of times that's why that's not a viable option for some of our kids until they've either gone to the NBA, need some more training, or not drafted and so forth. That's when they end up in these situations as opposed to being able to have them as options right off the bat. That it's unfortunate. You know, when you and I were growing up, there was 3 sports? We either played Little League baseball, football, basketball, soccer. It came in at the tail end of our generation, but you know, now it is now. So we'll say it is. You know what? I love the support of your wife, Angela Austin Clay. I see you. You know what? You're definitely rolling with Ramsey. I have to talk to y'all offline after this is over with. Love how y'all, I love seeing black love and the support. But hold up. Kenneth said, how do we work the money into the NCAA at all levels to get each player paid? I believe college players should get some money for them playing and making some money for their colleges. Now, I'll say this. Let me say this, Kenneth. I'm going to answer that point in a second. But first, what I was saying is we had those 3 sports, then AAU came along. Nothing wrong with AAU. I don't necessarily see a problem with it. But we played all sports, and we turned out great, and a lot of players before them did the same and made them more well-rounded players. I like to call it the Tiger Woods syndrome of we're going to play one thing and one thing only from birth, and I'm going to create this super player. Well, there's some people that have done that, and it's worked out well for them. There's some people who've tried it and it failed. I've watched some things on Real Sports. I forgot the football player's name, but a total failure in doing that. So you just have to be careful, know your child, pay attention to your child, listen to your child as you're growing up, because kids get tired. Don't try to vicariously live your dream out through your child and force them to do something they don't want to do. And so you have to be careful. Your eyes get big if you think they're talented because, we're going to all get paid. That's the wrong reason. You're already going down the wrong path. Kenneth, what you're talking about, honestly, I feel like I think college athletes should at a minimum get a stipend. At a minimum. That's at the bare minimum. They should be given some type of stipend every month. Now, how much that is, I know one thing: they shouldn't be walking around so broke that they get in trouble because they sell an autograph or sign a jersey and get paid for it. And the kids say, "Well, why'd you do that?" "Well, I was hungry. I ain't had no money to go get nothing to eat." That's actually happening. And so it wasn't like they were trying to make money. They literally were at a school where they were just wanting to go get something to eat. Now, that goes down into another highway of what do the programs look like? What school were they at when they got in trouble? Because if you're at Alabama, they got their own cafeteria. You know, it's probably all you can eat 24 hours a day versus if they're at a smaller school per se, Division I. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So to what you just said, they're already getting stipends. Stipends aren't enough, and it's based off of what school you go to and that revenue that school brings in extra, and that stipend is dispersed out to you. And so, but it's not enough, and it's not working.
And we're not talking about the job washing cars at the main Boosters dealership where you ain't really washing cars.
Right. No, it comes through the university, and in some cases, depending on the school, it may come through the work study program. But that's not sufficient enough for what the athlete brings in. So to what Ken is asking is, there's many models that have been put out there as to how you could pay the player. I will tell you this: what it's going to come down to. It's not going to be every NCAA school the players are going to get financially compensated when this thing goes on. Yes, it's probably going to look more like your Power 5 schools that are going to have those students.
ACC, SEC,
Big 12, Big 10.
Right.
You know,
Pac-12. Pac-12.
Now, I say this to say there's nothing wrong with that. Because what we have to understand at that level is we're saying that these are, I'm not going to say quote unquote the best of the best, but this is the big boy leagues, right? And so people are going to say, well, that's not unfair that this school player gets X amount and that this school player doesn't. Okay, well, understand when they make it to the next level, you're not going to get paid the same money as a first round draft pick if you was a 7th round draft pick either. So if you didn't go to the University of Alabama, you may not make University of Alabama money as an athlete playing there. However, if you go to a University of Washington, you go get some money. You know, what the push should be is no kid who leaves college should walk away from that university the same way they arrived. And what that looks like is it's not in the form of that college degree that is a promissory note saying that, okay, we think here's a piece of paper, you can go out there and you're now qualified to get a job, but there's no actual guarantee that you're going to get a job. And if you do, you don't have the experience, and you're probably going to find yourself working in somewhere making $35,000, $40,000 a year fresh out of playing. And now you've made this university millions of dollars. Now let's just say if, as a collegiate athlete, you know, playing football or whatever, you were able to make that $35,000 to $40,000 a year while you're there in school. You've totally changed your socioeconomic status within those 4 years already.
That's very true.
That's money that you can build off of. That's money that you can invest in. That's money that when you walk away, you have something, go back into your community and make an effective change. What it's gonna look like is, because we as African Americans outnumber in the sport of football, it's gonna change our economic status a lot more so as our white counterparts. So that's where we have to look into the nooks and crannies of
I agree.
These athletes are not gonna or the hold up as to not being paid. And then you go to what you stated earlier with their autograph signing, things of that nature. That's your name, image, and likeness. That's your NIL. Now you have schools already in California, university. We're going to allow them to be compensated off of their name, image, and likeness. Now that sent a ripple effect throughout the NCAA, where everybody now is trying to play catch up as to how we're going to pay the player. I'm telling you right now, the NCAA is falling, the NCAA is crumbling. you will have college players getting paid. The biggest thing that they're trying to figure out now is how much of the piece of the pie is going to be shared
Wow.
amongst these athletes.
Now, it's funny. We got to wrap up here shortly, but it's funny. This past year, we saw some top basketball players decide and make the decision to not go to the Power Five and said, you know what? I'm going to go to my local or closest HBCU. Now, I see that as a great thing. I see that as putting a spotlight on HBCUs. I think John Morant had a lot to do with that. Coming out of the school that he came out of, I think it was Murray State where he played at. That is an awesome thing. But now, once everything that you just talked about comes full circle and it's in place, that's how they will pull those top tier athletes back in from doing that, because nobody's going to turn their back on some money if they're going to be compensated properly for doing things.
Well, it goes back to, and I know we got to wrap up, and it goes back to just the system, right? It's systematically oppressed, right?
Yeah.
So people fail to realize that HBCUs are part of NCAA Division I FBS.
They act like that, and it's funny, they act like that they're not even a part of it until you watching football on Sunday, Chicago Bears, and seeing my boy that graduated from A&T running up in the end zone every other play.
Well, and why they fail to realize that is, you got to understand the media plays a play in this as well. All right, because there's no reason why ESPN couldn't be covering HBCU games.
They started something. They've started something.
Well, let's be honest. When they show them, there's only the classic, and it's at 10 o'clock at night.
Right. They're not getting no primetime spots.
That is true. They're not getting the primetime slots like the other schools. And so, imagine if that narrative was switched. All right. And so now the money, that's why you have the SEC network.
The TV, right, exactly.
And that money. So if you showcase those HBCU games and the primetime slots, there's a viewership for that. There's people who want to see that. And so
right.
if you actually give them the opportunity to see that and see that product, you can have a HBCU network where, now you got people registering and you getting that money intake and everything like that. So the media, ESPN, Fox Sports News, all of them play a role in this system that's going on that has to be broken.
And you're absolutely right. And I just want to say this. I'll give a shout out to the closest one to me right here at home. My mother's a graduate. One of my sisters is a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University. I follow them in many forms. Believe it or not, you guys, their teams are a lot more diversified than you think. Particularly in this era that we're in now. No matter what the sport is, there are black and white on all of these teams. Because one thing that we hear about when we talk about these minority scholarships, well, guess what? If you're a white individual and you go to an HBCU, you're entitled to a minority scholarship. And the focus should still be and always should be on the education. Well, if you didn't know, North Carolina A&T State University is one of the top 5 engineering schools in the country. And so graduate Ron McNair, may he rest in peace, the astronaut that passed away with the shuttle Challenger, that's his alma mater. But just a lot of things to think about these days, and it just goes back to being open enough to have the conversation in trying to be have enough wisdom to say, you know what, let me try to gain some better understanding on what is taking place. So when you're watching the NBA games and you're watching these guys in the bubble and they have names and stuff on the back of their shirts, I said it before, and it goes true for myself and it goes true for Forrest. I can't take off my black skin like a jacket. No matter how much money these athletes make, no matter how popular and prominent they are still African Americans. We are still black, so they're still getting profiled and so forth, and injustices and getting stopped. I've been profiled. I've been stopped. What I can say is this. I appreciate being able to have healthy conversation with my white counterparts, my white friends that I have, my Caucasian friends that I have. I don't want to offend anybody if they feel that way, but I'm able to because I'm in the RV community. We have a lot of black RV groups and so forth, But the RV community as a whole is a very friendly and neighboring and welcoming community, regardless of color. We don't see that. It's pretty much, I'm sure there's some incidents here and there that people can talk about, but for the most part, people are willing to talk. One of the things that I'll bring up really quick before we get out of here, last week when I went I was down in Red Bay, Alabama by myself getting this work done. A couple wanted to take me to lunch. I said, sure. They said, we want to treat you to lunch, Charles. Come on, let's go to lunch. They had their Trump 2020 hats on, this, that, and the other. But we had a great lunch. We had a great conversation. That did not stop us from laughing and joking with one another. And that's one of the major problems that the United States is in right now. People have stopped talking. They've stopped wanting to listen because I'm going to always say this. I believe that we're more alike than we are different. Man, Forrest, it's been real, brother. And Debbie said it. She said, truly a welcome community. She said, glad you've experienced that. Real quick, Kenneth said HBC was the top conferences before I guess segregation broke. Wish it could come back because he's right. You're absolutely right. We were running through football. Hey, we were running through football teams, and then when the integration came, you're absolutely right. And we started. I forgot. I've seen that documentary where the first black football players went to Alabama and all these other schools, and then it just started trickling down. But prior to that, yeah, Alabama didn't want to see East Tennessee State and UAB and so forth. You're right. You're absolutely right. This has been a very good conversation. We're going to have to make sure that I have you back on so that we can come back to this, bring it full circle. When we see some things happening up to date, to be able to talk about some of the immediate social issues that we're having, real quick. I know you told me the other day when we spoke that you dropped off your oldest daughter back at school, right? Before I let you get out of here, how comfortable you are dropping her off? How do you feel that she's safe? And what information did you tell her? Did you breathe over the head? Hey, look, you're gonna wear this mask.
So I'm dropping off 2 this year. So
oh wow,
she plays basketball at Kentucky Christian University, and so dropped her back off and talked to the coach.
TCU, okay. KCU. Okay.
Christian University, and talked to the coach, and they let me know what their the parameters were and everything they had in place to ensure that they were going to do the best they could during this time. And so I'm skeptical. You know, I'm definitely concerned. My other daughter, and let me just tell her, Kaya, happy birthday. Today is her birthday.
Oh wow, happy birthday, Kaya.
Turned 18 today. She's going to Norfolk State, and I'll be taking her up there end of this month. And so looking at all the changes that are going on, very nervous. My son, who was getting ready to start his freshman year of football, I pulled him out of football.
Wow.
Because, you know, health is first and foremost, you know, during this time. So, yeah, nervous, but and trusting that, you know, they're going to do all the things that they need to do for social distancing, wearing their masks. I definitely are in agreement with the universities who said we're just going to go until November and then we're going to come home for the remainder of the time. Now, that's yet to be seen for us, the oldest, because she plays basketball. But, you know, we would definitely see.
Well, you know what, we're wishing Rolling with Ramsey is definitely supportive of your 2 daughters in their college endeavors. We wish them well. Kaya is 18. Yes, you are old enough to vote. And so we need to make sure that you register, because we need all the help we can get right about now. So I know you're going to take care of that. I'm not worried. You're going to be voting in the Clay household. But that is awesome. Brother, thanks for coming on. I've really enjoyed this. We're going to do it again. That is for sure. I like what your household 6 Better had said, she said the next time, she said, be a great conversation. The desegregation, or she said a great conversation, desegregation hurt or help African Americans. That's a great conversation. That's a powerful conversation. Definitely one that we should address one day.
I want to say thank you for having me. If anybody needs to reach me, they can find me on Facebook at Forrest Clay -subs. They can also find me on Facebook at Elite Athletics. They can email me at elite1valuable@gmail.com. And then they can also follow the pre-post game. That's pre-post game on Facebook. And so, yeah, if they need to reach out, and they can follow me on that.
Hey, and don't forget the fact that you write for the African American athlete.
I'm sorry.
Come on.
Contributing writer for the African American athlete. So, Mr. Ricky Hampton over there at the African American athlete. Thank you to him. Yes, contributing writer there. We follow a lot of great stories that we're talking about, and he brings to light with his team about the sports that's going on in the African American community. We talk about cultural things as well, and so great platform.
That is awesome. Well, brother, like I said, we're gonna do this again. I'm gonna have you back on, and we're gonna come full circle on some things, and definitely some things that we can address and put a spotlight on, because the more that we put a spotlight on things, it opens people's eyes, it opens their ears, and more importantly, it opens their heart to understand better. I appreciate you, Forrest. You have officially been rolling with Ramsey. We'll talk soon, brother. We'll talk soon. All right, let's see what we're gonna do here. Let me let Forrest go. There we go. So you all, I just want to say thank you again for tuning in. It has been awesome. Another week has gone by. Like I said, y'all have been rolling with Ramsey. Don't forget, you've got to support us. I cannot grow without the help of all of you all. So please share the page. Ask all your friends, your entire network to come on board. You know, we live in a society, in a world where things are judged off our likes, followers, and subscribers. So you should like the Rolling with Ramsey Facebook page, follow at Rolling with Ramsey on Instagram, and then go to the YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. I recently have got my video editor on board, so we're going to start being able to upload these videos to the YouTube channel and not just the audio, and which is great. And more importantly, we are a podcast. Rolling with Ramsey is a podcast. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts as well. And we are finalizing the things where we're going to be on iHeartRadio too. So gotta love that. Thank you all for all your support. And once again, be blessed. I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it. And thank you for rolling with Ramsey. I'll see you soon.